everybody. I hope you're having a great day. And I can tell you that my day is about to get better. A few years ago, I had the privilege of opening for the legendary BJ Thomas. And it's so nice when you meet someone who's had that high level of success and they turn out to be as kind as they are talented. That is BJ Thomas. Welcome, BJ.
Oh, Karen, thank you. Thank you. Good to be here. Yeah, that was great. That night we worked in Georgia.
Yeah, that was a New Year's Eve gig.
Oh, it was a New Year's Eve.
Yeah, it was. It was New Year's Eve. And I mean, you are top of your game. Your voice is just hadn't lost anything. I mean, just sounded fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I've hardly sung a note here in 4 or 5 months, so I've got some work to do to get back in shape. And we feel good. Of course, we've been quarantined for a long time.
And you're in a hot spot right now.
Yeah. Texas has been a hot spot for quite a while. So, we're being very careful.
Talk about how kind you are and gracious, but I certainly want to mention 5 Grammys, 2 Dove Awards, sold more than 70 million albums, ranks in Billboard's top 50 most played artists in the last 50 years. I mean, member of the Grand Ole Opry. You've done it all. Does it seem like it's yesterday, or does it feel like another lifetime ago?
Well, when I think about it, I am, cognizant of the fact that it's been many, many years, but, it's the old cliche that it just went by so quick. I mean, I can't, I'm approaching, I'm going to be 78 here in a couple of weeks, and I just don't know where it possibly went. But when I do think about it, though, I do realize all the different experiences I've had, and the fact that that's one of the things I guess I'm most proud of is that the longevity of the way people still like to come and hear my music, and I'm just amazed for that. That's amazing.
Because you're still going strong. I mean, you are in the same boat as all the other entertainers. The COVID is keeping you from dates that you stay.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't do 100 dates anymore, but I still do, 60, 70, something like that, and it keeps me busy. But yeah, I think our industry has just been so shut down. So it's I love the road, but I love to be home also. And so Gloria and I have enjoyed this being together. I don't know if we've ever been together this many consecutive days.
And you have been married for how many years?
52.
52, and probably not being together as much as now.
No, I don't think we've ever been, 4 or 5 months together, consecutive days, So, but we really have enjoyed it. We're like, as you would probably guess, we're joined at the hip, and we love to be together.
She was a songwriter. Is that correct?
Yeah, she wrote many of my gospel songs when I was in gospel music back in the late 70s to about the mid 80s. And she wrote New Looks from an Old Lover, which was a #1 country record, a country chart record. Was #1 and got 2 million airplays and whatever. So
that's awesome, and that I'm sure helps that you're kind of understand the same industry and share ideas, and so I'm sure that certainly makes your relationship even closer.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And then she used to travel with me, everywhere I went when we were first married. So, but then we have 3 children. She had to stay home sometimes to take care of them or whatever. But
3 daughters, right?
3 daughters. Yeah.
And 3 granddaughters. Is that correct?
And we have 3 granddaughters and 1 grandson.
Oh, so
and my grandson is named after me. Of course, his last name is Moore, but they named him Billy Joe Thomas Moore.
Oh,
And I think it was a family tradition on the maternal side of my son-in-law's family that they named the first male child after the maternal grandfather. So that was cool. That worked
yeah,
out
that's
great.
cool.
I haven't seen him in a while, but that was pretty cool.
That is very cool. I
How
didn't
about
know
you, Deb? You have sisters and brothers and
I
all?
have
Of
one
course.
brother. Yeah, 3 years older than me. He's a chiropractor in my hometown of Cleveland, Tennessee, which is just about 30 miles up the road. He keeps me
Uh-huh.
upright, and he is a huge BJ Thomas fan. I can tell you that.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
And raindrops keep falling on my head. That was inducted in the Grammy Hall of Fame. How did you find out that they wanted to use that song in Butch Cassidy?
Well, I was with Scepter Records back in my early years, and I had a great friend of mine that that was a promotion man, and then the A&R director with Scepter Records in New York City, Steve Tyrell, and he made it possible. He pretty much got him to sign me when I had "I'm So Lonesome," which was a #1 record in Houston. And so we were rocking along, and I was recording in Memphis, and I had just had hooked on a feeling. And so I was kind of Mr. Bacharach. Kind of this song came up, and he did most of his material with Dionne Warwick. But this was the bicycle scene song was obviously not a female song. The Raindrops, they wanted a male singer, and I just had hooked on a feeling, so I was kind of in the back of his mind there. And they like to record with people who were selling records, and Mr. Bacharach, amazing person, maybe, I mean, just he's #1 in my book.
Right.
And the guy that wrote the lyrics was Hal David, and of course everything they wrote was classic. But I was touring the Midwest, and they called me and said, "Hey, we're going to fly you out to California." And I had been, kind of going a meeting with Mr. Bacharach in New York City, and we would go over this song and that song, and they were trying to write me some stuff, and wasn't really coming together real good. It was, we all knew it was going to. Anyway, Raindrops came up, so they flew me out, and I had just was finishing 3 weeks of one-nighters, and my throat was killing me. And of course, back in those days, I smoked a little bit, and so when I got up to California, then Gloria went with me, and Gloria insisted I go to the doctor. So I go to the doctor, and I have an acute case of laryngitis. I saw the doctor the day before. I had a rehearsal with Mr. Bacharach, and then we had the session on a Saturday, and then we had the session on a Sunday for the bicycle scene. And the doctor says, "BJ, this is the worst throat I've ever seen." And he said, "I don't want you to even speak for 2 weeks." And I said, "Oh," he said, "I want you to get a pad and a pencil and write down everything and don't say anything." And I said, "Well, man," I said, "you've got to help me, because I've got rehearsal today, and I've got a session tomorrow for a Paul Newman movie, and you got to help me." So he gave me a few, I don't know, pills that were supposed to shrink my vocal cords or whatever. But anyway, I did get out to rehearsal with Mr. Bacharach, and I was about 3 hours late, and so I didn't know how he was going to appreciate that. And then it was a kind of question where I said, "Well, I can't, I didn't feel like I could sing a lick," but I said, it's not going to be a situation where I don't show up. I'm going to show up, and if he kicks me out, well, so be it, So I get there, and it's a long story. He was married to. Can you take a long story?
Sure, I can take a long story.
So as it turns out, I get out there, and I'm supposed to push the intercom button, but I push the wrong button, and the garage door comes up. At Mr. Bacharach's house, and then Angie Dickinson steps out the back door. He was married to Angie then, and of course she was the beyond beautiful of our generation. And so she says, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am. I'm here to work on some music with Mr. Bacharach." And so she turned and she said, "Bert, your little friend is here." She says. And anyway, I go in and he's got this huge room and big white piano, and we start going through the song, which I barely really knew because I'd been doing the one nighters, and I was in the process of still learning it. And but he could tell right away that something wasn't right with my voice. And he never said a word, and as it turns out, he liked it. He thought that it was very effective. So he didn't say a word, and so the next day we had the session, and I managed to sing the song maybe 5 times, and it was pretty scratchy, and but it sounded good. It was effective, and of course, as it turns out, it was very successful. Uh, but I didn't have any idea that I was going to be able to get through that song and get that done. But
And
that's
it
the
was
way
a little
things
more
work.
hoarse than the radio version, correct?
Then we re-recorded the song 6 weeks later in New York City, Columbia Studios there, and with the big, we had 90 musicians in there, and this always kind of stands out to me as I look back on it. We only went through the song 3 times, and of course, nowadays they'll record something 50 times till they get it what they think is perfect. But he actually, for the single version, which uh, became just such a blessing and wonderful thing in my life and a lot of people's their lives too. I'm sure, as he won a couple of Academy Awards. But he spliced the 3 takes together. The first verse from the first take, and then he put the second verse in the bridge. Anyway, he put all 3 of the takes together, and that became the single. And what a thing! I mean, I just don't have words to say what that's meant to me.
I read where Robert Redford didn't want a theme song. He didn't think the movie should have a theme song. And
No,
then,
because their philosophy on the movie was they were making an art film, and the score and everything was very different. It was not with musical instruments. I mean, maybe a thing or two with instruments, and of course with the bicycle scene, there was the banjo and what have you, but most of it was voices, pop, 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 that kind of thing. And they considered it, what they were doing was making an art film. And he, from what I've heard, the last thing he was going to let happen was put this pop song in his art film. But somehow, they convinced him to put it in. And then I've subsequently heard over the years, maybe he was on the Oprah show, and he said that he did like the song, and changed his mind on that. But just a great song. I think Mr. Bacharach had raindrops in his head, and the movie people asked Hal David to write some frivolous, silly lyrics. And of course, I had many conversations with Hal David about this song. He said, BJ, he said, I don't write frivolous, silly songs. And I said, yes, sir, I understand that. So he wrote this really simple thing, about the rain falling on your head. And when you live with it a while, or you're around it, the lyrics become so much deeper
than that.
and meaningful, because I mean the punchline is, hey, as long as I'm free, nothing's worrying me.
That's right.
What he did was write a really deep, beautiful song, and I just, and what he said to me, he felt like it was the perfect meeting of writer, composer, and singer. And that rarely happens in this crazy music thing. But I think he's right. It was just a perfect meeting, And subsequently, as you mentioned, we all went in the Hall of Fame, all three of us together, with, of course, with the song. So
That's so
it's
awesome.
been incredible.
And then it got another shot in the arm with Spider-Man 2, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, man. I remember one night, of course, I'm sitting at home and I get a call from my daughter, and my daughter Erin, and she says, "Dad," and she's crying and everything. I said, "What is it?" She said, "Dad, we just went to see Spider-Man 2, and your song, your entire song is in there." As I guess he's walking down the sidewalk, and it's all making sense to him,
Right.
finally. And so of course, I've forced that movie on the grandkids about 50 times, but yeah, it's had a life of its own.
I was watching Jeopardy one night, and the question was who sang "Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head," and I was like, I bounced up, look, B.J. Thomas. So I get so excited when I know a Jeopardy question. So,
Yeah.
Well, I read that. Is this true that you started at 15 years old with a band?
Well, yeah, I was 15 when we got the band together. They told me I always was singing, even when I was an infant, so to speak. Then I was always singing, and I can just remember that I always sang. And my dad, my dad loved country music. So back in the day when we were little, very young, we would listen to the Grand Ole Opry on the radio. And it was a big thing to us. Saturday night, and we'd listen to that. And I loved all those singers, and I loved Hank Williams, and he just had such an appeal to me. And then, of course, he died, and there was just this totally dramatic life that he had that I so connected with. But then, when I was about 12 or 13 years old, I heard a Jackie Wilson song, a song called "To Be Loved," and it just so expanded what my understanding was of music. And of course, we had lived close to some churches as I grew up, and I used to love to sing that gospel music, and love to hang out with the kids. Was the reason I was there. But there was something about music I always loved. But that Jackie Wilson song just opened my mind to how the emotions and just the healing effect, and just the miraculous things that songs can do. And of course, Jackie Wilson sounded like he believed everything he sang, and that had a large effect on me. Is that I tried to do that throughout my careers. I didn't want to sing anything that I didn't believe. And some friends of my brothers got a band together. We subsequently called ourselves the Triumphs, and they didn't have a singer, and my brother, kind of forced me to. I said, "No, I'm not going to go over there. I'm not gonna sing with the band." He said, "Yeah, you are," so as it turns out, I did, and I went over and I sang a Buddy Holly song, and and I just became their singer. And so we kind of we all kind of patterned our band after Roy Head and the Traits. Roy Head had Treat Her Right, if you remember, and he's still my best friend. And so it took a few years before we could, really tune up, and before things really would gel in a way that people would enjoy. But we became one of the popular bands in our area, and we've been together 7 or 8 years, really, maybe 6 years. When we did "I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry," and it went #1 in Houston, and I started getting gig offers.
Yeah. So have you ever had any kind of job that wasn't as a singer? It sounds like you started so young that you
Yeah,
never had to do anything else.
not really. Yeah, no, not really. That's all I've ever done. And as you probably know, and the it's like you don't have a job, but then it really is like you really do have a job. You know what I mean? Because after we played for dances and things like that, and we just had a good time. But then, of course, after I went on the road, my first gig was with James Brown. I went out with James Brown because they thought I was a black
Wow.
guy, and of course, I would have traded places with any of those great, you know, black musicians and singers. And I met Bobby Bland when I was about 16, and anyway, that's just who I aspired to be. It was like those great R&B guys. But yeah, then when I first started getting those gigs where I had to be, when I showed up, they were expecting somebody. Then I realized that, there was an obligation on me to do a good job. It wasn't just about having a good time. And so I kind of learned my profession as I went. I hopefully I got better and better and better.
And you were kind of in that group with Elvis and Tom Jones, Neil Diamond, all of those greats.
Well, I don't compare myself to them. I'm not going to sit here and say that I was in that group, but I will say this. I think our generation, there, 60s, 70s, 50s, even, was the greatest music of all time. Everywhere I go in the world, I go to Australia or South America, where I go fairly often. That's all. That's the music you hear: 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s American music. But I won't say I was there with any equality with those guys, but I was competitive. I was kind of in the middle. Maybe I wasn't number one, but I was kind of in the middle there somewhere.
DJ, did you miss that part I said about the 50 most played artists?
No, the first, when I first learned of that, I was floored. I was amazed that was so. But I'm very, very proud of that. And then maybe that's what I'm most proud of.
And you're very humble. But now, am I right that Elvis booked you to perform at his New Year's Eve party that he hosted? Is that correct?
Yeah, well, it was a Valentine's party and a Christmas party a couple of times, and I really wasn't in the inner gang or anything, but I was recording in Memphis, and I think I had a big influence on Elvis coming into American studio, because I was making hit records and just banging them out, and he hadn't had a hit in a while, and we all loved him, and we all knew that he could have a hit anytime he really wanted to, but we needed him to come into American studio, and so we would lobby his guys about, man, please tell Elvis to come in, because the American studio group, which is known as the Memphis Boys now, they were one of the greatest recording bands of all time, and they surely will be in the Hall of Fame one day, but they were cutting hits on everyone. And so, he came in there. When he came in there, that was the magic he needed, because he needed really good musicians with him, like he'd always kind of had. And had been mostly interested in the movie thing. But, I met him a few times. He was a wonderful guy. I was around him during the period of time when he was the most beautiful. And he was a beautiful guy, the best. I mean, he had everything, and there'll only be one Elvis, and that's the way it ought to be of all time. I don't think anybody will replace him or fill his shoes. But he was a wonderful guy. He knew all about. When we first met at the Memphian Theater, he knew all about me. I mean, he bang bang bang. He named out, "Oh, BJ, I love your new record," and he just knew all about me. And and of course, I couldn't even. I was afraid to even get close enough to even shake his hand. I was in awe. But he was a wonderful, wonderful guy, and those guys, Suspicious Minds and all those things.
For my 16th birthday, my brother took me to see Elvis. This was it was in Huntsville, Alabama. Another friend of mine had gone with me, and we had said, me and my friend Connie, we go, we love him, but we're not going to start screaming and acting crazy when, like all these other
Right.
women do when he comes out here. But by the time the buildup of the music and everything was so electrifying, by the time he hit the stage, we were fighting over the binoculars and pushing everybody.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
crazy.
He was the best.
Did you know Rick Nelson?
You know, I met Rick a couple of times, and he was my first. He was my first guy. Now, when I was just, of course, the first guys were the country guys, but the Ozzie and Harriet show was on every week, and he just was this really cool guy, kind of batting his eyes and doing that thing. And oh gosh, I love him so much. And so and 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 I thought, I could do that. I mean, some entertainers are jumping around there, they're doing all this stuff, but he was just there, very understated and effective. And I thought, I could do that. So he was my first guy, and I had the flat top hair, the Hollywood haircut, and all that stuff. And I really loved Ricky. And I tell you, that was a very, very sad
Oh,
time for me when Ricky died, and it still bothers me.
have you ever had a garden party type of a moment where people expect one thing and got something else?
Yeah, yes, I have.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, I have. I have. I did a tour of in Europe. We played all the places, and it was a big country tour. And when we got and I just noticed that it didn't seem like the people were really digging me. In Ireland and in Germany and at Wembley and in London, they were a little seemed like they were a little lukewarm or whatever. And so I found out that the the country fan there is so much more traditionally true than any of our country fans here. I mean, they will not put up with any pop stuff in their country music. And so that's kind of what I was. I mean, I'm doing Hooked on a Feeling, and they're going, what is he doing? So then I get to Switzerland, and I'd always heard about this, what would happen to a lot of entertainers in Switzerland. They got booed off. And I had no idea. It never dawned on me that I was on that tour that where these people got booed off. I mean, I could name them, but I don't want to embarrass anybody. But they would boo off anyone with any kind of pop thing. So here I go, and then as it happens, I'm doing Hooked on a Feeling, and the first day had been whistling, and I knew whistling wasn't good. So I'm doing Hooked on a Feeling, and then they start booing, and I mean they boo so loud that I can't hear the band, and so I just have to stop, and leave the stage. And I mean I was wounded for 10 years. I mean
Oh my gosh,
it killed me, but I realized that I guess they had a valid argument, I guess, but. I think that's where I've been very lucky in my career is pop people they kind of course, but that pop music we made back then is not even there anymore. But pop people always considered me pop, and country people always thought I was country, and gospel people took me as a gospel singer. And so I always was very lucky in that way. And I think that relates back to just singing singing the songs like you believe them. So.
And if you can't please everyone, you got to please yourself, right?
That's right.
What is the best advice you've ever gotten?
Well, I'm not sure. I've gotten lots of advice. I'm not sure that any of it really worked for me. But I think I've found out um, by being in music so long that the best advice I can give you is if you want to be an entertainer or a singer or a writer or what have you, is to get in a band. Get in a band. That's the number one goal.
Yeah.
Get in a band and learn how to do that, because that'll always serve you well, and keep your music personal. Just do what you know about, and sing about how you feel, and talk about stuff that is true to you, and then you don't have to worry about trying to find something to do or how you should be. You just be yourself.
Be yourself. That's true in comedy too. I think that's true.
And that's what you do. I mean, you're terrific on stage, and you're just so real, and that's what people love.
Well, thank you. And you are also a dog lover the way I am.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've had many dogs. I mean, I don't remember the name of the author, the great writer, but he said, after it's all said and done, at the end, you just miss your dogs. And that's kind of I can remember all my dogs, and I do love dogs, and I think they're the most beautiful form of life, and they show us how to love and how to live and whatever. So.
Yeah, totally unconditional love. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, unreal. Yeah, my guy Atticus, he's asleep right over here. He just hangs out with me when I do these things. So, and then Blanche is around here somewhere. I don't know.
Blanche, how funny!
What's What's your dog's name?
I have Zoe and
Zoe.
Jax.
And Jax, yeah. Okay.
They always find me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zoe was abandoned on the street, and I tried my best to find where she came from because she's a beautiful little Chihuahua, but turned out she was pregnant, and so we think that someone had been maybe breeding her, and then she had gotten out and got with something that wasn't a Chihuahua, and so she was kind of discarded, and she is the adorable, sweetest thing. She is a doll. So
I love my dogs. So yeah, they mean a lot to me. Yeah. And there are various dogs down through the years that have really affected my life. And I mean that they've been wonderful.
Same here. Now, when I went through cancer, my dogs were so comforting to me because it didn't matter how nauseated or bald or anything I was, they would just be there and love you through it. So
yeah, amazing, yeah.
It really is. Okay, tell me something that's on your bucket list.
Oh well, I had a session scheduled, or practically we didn't have the exact dates yet, but I'm going in the studio in Muscle Shoals with Billy Lawson and Dan Penn, two great songwriters, and we're going to do that in the middle of July, but of course, along with everything else that had to be postponed and put on hold. But as soon as we can, as soon as we get the vaccine and I can be safe, being around other folks, then we're gonna go get that done. And of course, Muscle Shoals is a great place.
Yeah, it is
to record. So
you're doing
get that done. Got some really good songs already, and that becomes the real difficult part of my thing is when you get older and you get older, you don't, all the great songs don't come your way as they once did. So it's really good to be with with Billy and Dan and the great writers that they've been over the years. So we hook up pretty good.
Oh, that's awesome. I look forward to hearing that. You please let us know when that's out.
I will.
What kind of music do you listen to when you're just listening?
Well, right now, of course, trying to keep my voice in shape, I'm basically just singing along with I've still got a stereo turntable and everything. And so, I like all the great guys. I like the Marvin Gaye and Al Green, Elvis, Beatles. I still love the guys from my generation, and I'm even putting on. Sometimes I'll put on my one of my things and sing with it, and just trying to just stay in shape and keep my attention.
Yeah. Keep your voice in shape.
But music and comedy too. I'm sure. It's all about who's the next guy, who's the new guy, and so that's something you have to realize that's part of the business. There's always going to be another guy, and there's going to be a different little different kind of song, and then so that's all really good. So I don't mind that. I think we have some great entertainers now, and especially in the country field, and great, more power to them.
I think you need to do uh, the Tony Bennett thing and do some duets with like Lady Gaga and some of those.
Yeah,
Wouldn't that be
that would
cool?
be nice. You call her for me.
I'll hit her up as soon as we get off here, and I'll hook that
Well,
up.
I have a great friend of mine as a young lady. Her name is Sarah Nimitz, and the first time she got on stage and sang with me, she was 4 years old, and she's one of the great new singers, and she's something that some people should look into. She's a great new singer, and you know, I think the technology is the main thing that's changed. I mean, you can do a great record in your bedroom,
Yeah.
or you can sit around in the kitchen and record that and have some wonderful stuff. So that's that kind of empowers a lot of people to do. And then there was a day when if you had a great song, it would find its way. And sometimes now it's a little harder for the song to find its way, but that still is pretty true in most cases.
If you weren't in the entertainment business, what would you be doing?
Well, I think of course, I've thought about that a number of times. I think I probably would have just ended up being a working man, like my dad. He was a blue collar guy. He loved to work. He could outwork anyone. And my brother Jerry and I, we used to go work with him. And he was, there was a time when Houston was the most air conditioned city in the United States, and kind of air conditioning kind of started down here in this part of the country. And so we worked, and he was in that industry, and he could install the air conditioners and all those things. And so we worked there, and that's hard work.
Yeah.
And I think, if it hadn't been for music, that's probably what I would have done. I'd been a regular guy and with a lot of kids, and that would have been a good life. I wouldn't have minded that at all.
Well, we're sure glad that we have your music. I can tell you that.
Thank you.
And
Believe me, it's been a ripoff all the way. I have loved it, and I'm so thankful, especially now, and way before now. But now I can tell you, I'm so thankful for the people that have supported me and followed me and in my career and allowed me to have this great dramatic life, and I'm very thankful for that.
do any of your children or grandchildren sing?
Yeah, they all my daughters could have been musicians if they had had the burning desire. None of them really wanted to do it, but they all could sing a little bit, and all the grandkids. In fact, I have Nadia. My granddaughter by my middle daughter, Nora, is a singer, and she sings kind of broad. Right now, she's in like school productions, and she kind of sings that the Broadway kind of thing right now. She has this incredible voice, or this unbelievable sound in her throat, and so they all could do that a little bit. And they all have been very artistic, and Billy Joe did his first one-nighter when he was about 3. He got up in the morning, he had breakfast, and he wrote a song, and then he put on his gig clothes, and he's got a couple of guitars. We made sure, and he did his first show one morning about 6:30. But so, they all have a lot of talent, and if you do have that burning desire, then when you're in a situation where you just got to do it, I'm sure is how you feel about your deal.
Sure.
And then you've got to do it. So.
That's
but
true.
none of them really. I'm not sure how the grandkids are going to go, but we'll see.
How old is Billy Joe now?
Billy Joe is 7 or 8 years old right now. He may have just turned 8. Yeah. He's good. He's a very good boy. They're all beautiful children. We love them.
Have a blessed life.
Yeah.
Well, BJ, it has been such a pleasure talking to you. I so appreciate you taking time to do my little silly episode here. I know that you probably have a lot of other things you could have done, but like I said earlier, you're one of the nicest people I've ever met.
Oh, well, Karen, I appreciate that so much, and there's not anything I would rather do than to do your show here. And I have so enjoyed watching them. And you have some very funny, talented friends, and you know you're just really. I guess people already know that you're just a wonderful person and very loving and sweet. And I just appreciate you wanting to talk to me. And I'll take my mask off and give you a kiss.
And when you get your new album ready, come back and let's talk about it.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that. Let's do it.
Okay. All
Take
right.
care.
Stay safe, and we'll talk soon. See you on Instagram.
Well, all right, well, take care. I love you.
I love you too, BJ.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.